Sara Haines recently called out a producer on The View about him tricking her. She wasn't happy about it and told him her thoughts on the situation. This also played into an entire conversation all the women had recently about Gayle King, with Joy Behar calling out Gayle for being scared. Here is what Sara had to say about the situation, what the producer lied about, and what will happen next. Sara Haines calls out The View producer over lies. Previously on The View, Whoopi Goldberg talked to the women about Gayle King traveling into space. This trip features an all-woman crew. Katy Perry and Lauren Sanchez also joined Gayle on this trip. However, when discussing the trip, Joy Behar said she didn't understand why, especially since Gayle said it terrified her. Joy Behar said she would never consider a trip into space, and Whoopi Goldberg also shot down the idea. However, Joy also said that if any The View host would go, it would be Sara Haines. This led to producer Brian Teta calling Sara during the Behind the Table podcast. Teta told Sara she might get a chance to go on a Blue Origin space trip if she was interested. Sara said she would consider it. However, this was a lie. Brian just wanted to see if Joy was right. This led Sara to call out Brian on this week's podcast episode. "You tricked me," Sara said to Brian. Brian apologized and said he wanted to know the truth. He responded, "And it turns out, yes, you would go on the Blue Origin flight." Sara said she was interested. However, she said it wouldn't happen because her husband would disapprove of her taking the trip. According to Sara, her husband is the voice of reason. "I know deep down that the risks I took before I had kids need to look different from the risks I take now that I have kids," Sara said. Sara Haines says husband won't allow this trip. Sara is married to a lawyer who is completely risk-averse. Sara said she mostly avoids adrenaline activities, and her husband knows how to avoid the dangers. That said, Sara admitted nothing is ever off the table. Brian asked if it was possible, and Sara said, "It would be cool. Again, I think my husband would never let it happen." Brian admitted that with Gayle King and Katy Perry going up together, he and Sara could follow suit. Sara said she previously took on paragliding, bungee jumping, skydiving, and rappelling down a building to support Hoda Kotb's cancer battle. Most of this happened before she had kids. She also got into a NASCAR car to experience the high speeds, which she said was probably not a good idea, but no one knew. What are your thoughts about celebrities taking these rocket trips into space with the Blue Origin New Shepard missions? Do you think it is worth the risks? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Sara Haines confronts The View producer over deceptive space trip offer. Inside the drama. Sara Haines recently called out a producer on The View for misleading her about a potential opportunity to travel to space. The incident unfolded during a candid discussion on the show's Behind the Table podcast, where Sara expressed her frustration over being tricked. This revelation also tied into a broader conversation among the co-hosts about risk-taking, particularly regarding Gayle King's upcoming space voyage. Here's a detailed breakdown of what happened, why Sara was upset, the producer's explanation, and what this means for the future. Sara Haines calls out producer Brian Teta for lies about space trip. The drama began during a recent episode of The View, where the co-hosts discussed Gayle King's participation in an all-woman space mission aboard Blue Origin's New Shepard rocket. The trip, organized by Jeff Bezos' aerospace company, will also include celebrities like Katy Perry and Lauren Sanchez. During the conversation, Joy Behar admitted she couldn't understand why Gayle would agree to the journey, especially since King had previously expressed fear about space travel. "I don't get it," Joy said. Gayle said she was terrified, so why go? "I would never do it." Whoopi Goldberg also dismissed the idea of traveling to space, but Joy then speculated that if any of The View co-hosts would ever consider such a trip, it would likely be Sara Haines. This offhand comment led to producer Brian Teta reaching out to Sara during the Behind the Table podcast. He told her that if she was interested, she might have a chance to join a future Blue Origin flight. Sara, intrigued by the idea, said she would consider it, only to later discover that Brian had fabricated the offer. Sara's on-air confrontation, "You tricked me." On the latest podcast episode, Sara didn't hold back in calling out Brian for his deception. "You tricked me," she exclaimed. "You made me think this was a real opportunity." Brian, laughing, admitted that he had lied, but only to test Joy's theory. "I had to know if Joy was right," he said. "And it turns out, yes, you would go
Sara
on the Blue
confirmed
that she was
flight.
interested in the idea of space travel, but quickly clarified that her husband would never allow it. "I know deep down that the risks I took before I had kids need to look different from the risks I take now that I have kids," she explained. Why Sara's husband would never allow her to go to space. Sara is married to attorney Max Schafrin, whom she describes as completely risk-averse. She joked that while she's open to adventure, her husband serves as the voice of reason in their relationship, ensuring she doesn't take unnecessary dangers, especially now that they have 3 children together. "My husband knows how to avoid risks, and I mostly avoid adrenaline activities these days," Sara said. "But that doesn't mean I'd say no to everything." When Brian pressed her on whether she would actually go if given the chance, Sara admitted, "It would be cool. But again, my husband would never let it happen." Brian then teased that since Gayle King and Katy Perry were going together, perhaps he and Sara could follow suit. Sara laughed but remained firm that her family obligations would prevent her from taking such a risk. Sara's history of thrill-seeking before motherhood. Though Sara now prioritizes safety, she hasn't always been so cautious. She revealed that in her younger years, she engaged in several high-adrenaline activities, including paragliding, bungee jumping, skydiving, rappelling down a building for Hoda Kotb's cancer charity event. She also once got behind the wheel of a NASCAR race car to experience high-speed driving, an experience she now admits was probably not a good idea. "But no one knew," she joked. Most of these adventures took place before she became a mother, and Sara acknowledged that her perspective on risk has shifted significantly since then. The bigger debate: should celebrities be traveling to space? Sara and Brian's conversation ties into a larger debate about the growing trend of civilian space travel, particularly among celebrities. Companies like Blue Origin, founded by Jeff Bezos, SpaceX, Elon Musk, and Virgin Galactic, Richard Branson, have made headlines by sending private citizens, including actors, musicians, and billionaires, into space. Arguments in favor of celebrity space travel. Inspiration. High-profile figures can generate public interest in space exploration. Scientific contribution. Private spaceflight could lead to advancements in technology. Bucket list experience. For those who can afford it, space travel is a once-in-a-lifetime adventure. Arguments against celebrity space travel. Safety concerns. Despite advancements, space travel remains risky. Environmental impact. Rocket launches contribute to carbon emissions. Elitism. With tickets costing millions, is an exclusive experience for the ultra-wealthy. What do The View co-hosts think? Joy Behar. Firmly against it, calling it unnecessary risk. Whoopi Goldberg. Not interested, prefers keeping her feet on the ground. Sara Haines. Intrigued but constrained by family responsibilities. Sunny Hosting and Alyssa Farah Griffin have not publicly commented, but likely cautious. What happens next? While Sara won't be boarding a Blue Origin rocket anytime soon, the discussion raises interesting questions about risk, celebrity culture, and the future of space tourism. Possible outcomes. More celebrities joining spaceflights. As missions become more common, expect more A-listers to sign up. Increased scrutiny on safety. High-profile accidents could lead to stricter regulations. Debates on accessibility. Will space travel ever be affordable for average people? For now, Sara's stance is clear. It's a no from me unless my husband changes his mind, which he won't. Final thoughts. Was Brian Tata wrong to lie? While Brian's prank was lighthearted, it sparked a genuine conversation about trust, risk assessment, and personal boundaries. Sara took it in stride, but made it clear that she doesn't appreciate being missiled, even in jest. What do you think? Should Sara have been upset about the joke? Would you ever consider space travel? Are celebrity space missions worth the risk? Let us know in the comments below.